Buckle up, everyone, and welcome to Carpool Rugby League, a show where two rugby league tragics talk everything rugby league on your way to and from work. I'm Shano.
And I'm the Chameleon.
Welcome aboard and on with the show. Griffo, great to see you. Everyone, thanks for listening in on this podcast. I suppose I've got my notes here, and yes, will you believe it or not, I actually have notes. It's been a few weeks since we've had a podcast, and kicking off since our last podcast, a stalwart of the Penrith Panthers, John Farragher, passed away. When I read it, I was taken back to one of my first ever memories of him, and not as a player, because I never saw him as a player. I remember going into Panthers. It must have been before a South Sydney Penrith game, because I had my jersey on, and he was talking up our chances, and look, we used to go to Panthers. That was like our special night out. We'd drive down to Penrith, and where I'm from back then, it was about an hour. We'd drive down to Penrith, and you'd go to Kelly's. You might have a crepe if everyone was if your parents were feeling happy, and you could get a crepe. You'd have fish and chips, and life was grand, and that was the night out. And you'd walk in, and he was he's always up for a chat. And I remember him. I would have been, I reckon 7 or 8, just talking for about. I suppose when you're a kid, you got no concept of time, but talking for a long time just about South Sydney and the players he saw and the players obviously he played against, and just talking about the team in general. And every time, any interaction, anyone, I suppose if you've walked into Panthers, any interaction you had with him was always nothing less than delightful. And when a human being on this earth that does that to people leaves it, I think that should be, I think that should be the life that is should be applauded, because he was just a delightful human being, front of house. Never saw him as a player, but from what I understand, very tough, and that fateful day that put him in the wheelchair, and I suppose, everyone that knows him probably saw him in that. He would talk openly about it, and I think if you would walk through the doors of Penrith Panthers over the last 30 odd years, probably longer. I'm trying to sound younger than I am now. You would have seen him, and you would have been. You would have been blessed by his presence and just the delightful human being that he was, and the generous, he talked the leg off an he talked the leg off an iron post. He was just insanely generous and friendly. And Griffo, I know you would have been down at Penrith for a lot longer than me, but I know my small interactions I had with him were very delightful, and the Penrith community and the world is maybe a little poorer the day that he passed. Definitely a little poorer.
Yeah, absolutely. It was probably nearly a couple of weeks ago now, and I sort of woke up, and one of the first things I do some days is just get the phone and tap into Facebook, see what's going on, and I read that, and I was shocked. I sort of tearing up, to be fair. The guy was inspirational. He was a gentleman, and he was very much a pillar of the Penrith community, not just the rugby league community, but the Penrith community, and as well as the rugby league community, obviously. I remember back in 1978 when it happened, the injury. It was at Henson Park. Penrith were playing, I think. Obviously they were playing Newtown. And in those days, you didn't get live coverage of every rugby league game like we do now. It was just you listen to the radio, and if you were lucky, they had someone at the ground, so you just sort of got scores coming through. But then that came through over the radio. And back in those days, nearly every game was 3 p.m. on Sunday.
Good old around the grounds. The good old around the grounds. Kids
around the grounds. So
these days, they would not understand what it was like listening to a rugby league match and your team wasn't live and you had to wait around the grounds.
Yeah. Well, I think in 1978, you didn't even have around the grounds.
Yeah, right.
You sort of got scores coming through. You might have had one or two guys at a different game. But, it was obviously a dark day for the sport of rugby league when that injury occurred, when the scrum collapsed. And he was only a young guy, early 20s at the time. I think he only played 7 games of first grade football for Penrith. But I think it was Roger Cowan who said that he will be looked after by the Penrith Rugby League community. And true to his word, he was. But it wasn't just he was being looked after. He looked after the community as well. It was a two-way street. Obviously, anyone who walked into Panthers would have been greeted very, very friendly greeting from John Farragher. And I didn't really know him much more than that. But about, I don't know, it might have been 5 or 6 years ago, I was walking outside the club, probably walking back to my car or something, but I was outside there, and he sort of called out to me. He said, "Can I trouble you just for a moment?" And I think, oh yeah, well, all he wanted was just, I think he had his bag at the back of his wheelchair, and he just got the bag, and he was so grateful, like. I couldn't get, like, I was just so humbled that, he was just such gratitude. And what I did was absolutely menial. But, we had a chat for about, at least 5 minutes. Just, and I don't know, I think back to that, and the guy was a legend, not just because he was in a wheelchair and got injured, but he was just a great human being, and sorely missed by all in the game. He was a current member of the Penrith Rugby League board, so he'd been on the board for 2 or 3 years. So an active member of that rugby league club on the board of directors. I can't speak highly enough of the man. It's a sad loss.
I saw a post online that said if they named a stand after him, only the people of Penrith and Blue Mountains would get it. And you could understand that like, if, like I said, growing up in the Blue Mountains, to go to Penrith was like, it was a big effort, and to be greeted by someone was so friendly, and was always happy to say hello and have a chat, and like I said, I remember walking in with my South jersey one day. I think that was the same day I took a slash next to Wayne Chisholm, from memory. It was, for him to take, and, it was probably only a few minutes, but to talk about the team to me, and who he asked who my favourite, and back then my favourite player was Mario Fenech, and to then talk about him. Not only was he a gentleman, but an absolute fan of rugby league, and knew his stuff inside and out. And if you talk to anyone who's spent more than a couple of minutes with him, I think they'd say the same. So I concur. I think the front, if they put a small mural at the front of Panthers in dedication to him, they could do anything and it wouldn't be enough to what he did. And you know what, you're talking about time, and I was talking to some people just recently about his passing, and you're talking about time where to go, like there was a small period of time there where no one wanted to go to Panthers. No, it was just people saw it as a bit of a dive and whatnot. And the reason why you went was because you were greeted by people like him. You know, what he has done for that place and subsequently the greater good of the Panthers, it can't be measured in being on the board. And yeah, I concur with you, Griff. I I could talk for an hour and not convey just how much I think he meant to the Penrith community. And look, I didn't know him. I didn't know him personally. I just had a few. The only interactions I had with him was, as a South fan, he'd have a chat, and then walking through the door. I'm sure to those who knew him well, there'd be a deep hole that would take in their heart. It would take a lot. It would, in a lifetime, it may not be filled again. So, definitely thoughts and condolences with everyone, everyone around him and everyone who's felt his loss, because it's those kinds of people come along once in your lifetime, and you have to appreciate when they do. So
I was I actually had dinner there tonight. I went out to see my daughter.
Lovely.
As you go in the club on the big screen, was his photo.
Good on him.
I think there is a memorial on, it might have been the 30th of November, but they're certainly going to honour him.
Yeah.
They
would, no doubt. They're a very good outfit and organisation, the Panthers. So they would, and all aspects of the Panthers. So they would do something for him. So definitely watch this space. If we have 19th, we do one next week, and we find out if it is the 30th, we'll definitely let you guys know. Griffo, it has been a couple of weeks, and tonight, listeners, we're having a conversation about rugby league because there's a lot to talk about. But has there been anything that's caught your eye in the last few weeks, Griff?
Well, just before we get to that, in conversation with my daughter tonight, she was telling me that today was International Men's Day. I did not know.
I heard. I
didn't know, but through her work, she had to attend and help out at a function for the men.
I know. I don't know which one it was, but either of them wouldn't have.
So I didn't even know it was International Men's Day. But to all our male listeners out there, to those who are men and those who are too aspiring to be men, happy Men's Day. Men's Day.
I do think of, and you know what? To be fair, I know that people might say tongue in cheek. To be fair, there's a lot of people who have very, very strong, good male role models. I know, look, coming to as a young teacher, Griff, you were a role model to me, and I think
that's very kind.
Very good.
Very humbling.
Very good, strong men are required in our world, and toxic masculinity sometimes gets to the forefront. So if it's a day to honour people like you, Griffo, and I know what you've done for me over the years and when I was a young teacher and still today, and if there's a day to that, I think it's highly valid.
Well, thank you, and thank you for what you do
Well,
in preparing young men. I know you've done a lot of work around that, and you do a great job. So,
we do.
so happy
best.
International Men's Day to all those who are men and on the way to becoming men, as I know some of our listeners are. Okay, so what caught my eye? It's the eyes have been a bit tired over the last few weeks since court, but
you would have had jet lag and then getting up and.
Oh no, yeah, well, anyway, I'm going to pick out a man who was wearing black and white, and
Yep.
I tried to look up on the NRL website, but they've gotten rid of those games in terms of going to get the stats up. But
Yeah.
Dylan Brown was
I
was a
thought
standout
I thought Dylan Brown was
as
very good.
the player of the series in the Pacific Championships, and certainly was the player of the match in the final, leading New Zealand to victory. A big year for Dylan Brown, signing a contract worth a huge amount of money for a lot of years. Copped a lot of, I don't know if personally he copped criticism. I don't think too many people.
I think they questioned it. I think they said.
Well, everyone questioned it. We questioned it.
We questioned. Who says it worth it? 100%.
But he was able to come through that. He was stood down essentially for most of their late season games, and just kept doing what he does. He was professional, and I was really happy that Jason Riles rewarded him with the number 6 jersey in his last game in blue and gold, and they beat, I think, the Knights. So they reached 60 something, which was sort of ironic that he was leaving a team to go to the other team who got 60 put on him. But Dylan Brown, Newcastle supporters will be making
happy.
sure that each game the Kiwi jersey is delivered, and he can put the Knights jersey over the top of that.
I looked at Dylan Brown's performance, and Dylan Brown reminds me of those. You know, there's certain players, they play for Origin, and you go, why did they get picked? And then they come in and they have absolute blinders. And then you start to realise, well, if we can get a couple of players around this player who are of somewhat equal quality, well, then all of a sudden you've got a pretty awesome team. I thought that's what Dylan Brown did. I thought Dylan Brown, with the players around him, and the people around him, I thought he did very well. That was a cracking game. I know that New Zealand sort of ran away with it in the end, but that was a tight tussle for a very long period of time, and
it certainly was.
Yeah, it was good. It was
that
good to watch.
Non-try on half time. I was at a venue watching the game, and I saw Mariner go over, and then I went to the bathroom, and just assumed, okay, the Samoans are going in with a decent lead.
Yep.
And then I went and sat somewhere else and looked at the screen, and I'm looking at the score and I'm like, what's going on here?
Yeah.
And then I don't know.
Yeah.
Apparently they said he didn't ground the ball.
That was the ruling.
He had his arm underneath it or something.
Didn't ground the ball, so.
Some say it was a try, others say it wasn't. Obviously, if it had gone up a try.
I think that's one of those things where it's that whole what's the referee's thoughts? Look,
the referee doesn't know. That's why we've got.
And that's look, we I said for years on this podcast, if you troll back through, and we've got to start taking a line when we make a decision. My question is I think we've really got to err on the side of the attacking team. I know a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Momentum or decisions. Decisions is the word. Goes to the attacking team. The reason why I think it should go to the attacking team is because it's far easier to look for reasons not to give a try than to give it at times. And I think if you're in two minds, like, I remember the benefit of the doubt. I didn't like that, but if you're like, okay, they're over, I've got no reason not to give this a try. There's no doubt. I haven't seen half of what's going on, but you know what? I'm going to give it and let them decide whether it's not. I think when it goes up no try, I really think the referee has to say in his mind, or her mind, and their mind, I should say, I have no reason to give this a try. When you look at held up and stuff, one blade of grass has to touch that ball for it to be a try. That's effectively what we've gotten to with grounding.
Well, that is the rule.
Yeah. So there's a small part of me that says, if in real time you're watching it and you see the ball sort of go over the line, I'm at the point now where they should just give it. Like I'd rather them give it and say, because when they don't give it, you've then got to prove it is, and I think that's harder. I genuinely think that in rugby league, it's harder to prove a try than take one away. And 99% of the times, I'm sure if we had sensors in the ball that was able to look at different sensors, that we can't have that. It costs millions of dollars to do that per game, so we're not going to get that. But I'm sure if we had it, the plane would be broken and given a try. So why don't we just say in those kinds of instances, look, everything I've seen, and I haven't seen everything, and I think this is what gets into the referee's head, is they go, well, I haven't seen everything. No try, you sort it out. No. If there was no bunker, if there was no video ref, what would you do? If the video ref was turned off for a night because of technical difficulties, what would you have given it? And if you'd given it a try, give it a try and let them work it out. I think this is where the bunker also gets into trouble, because the referee gives the bunker these no tries that are like, you just look at them and go, well, I've got to back the referee. There's no conclusive evidence. And I think this is where the bunker gets themselves into trouble. Look, we know a certain referee and that did a very good job in the grand final. And I remember talking to him. He said that there's angles and stuff you never see on TV. They got a million angles that they don't show on TV. But I really think that, certain things just have to if you have no idea, we're past that. That was the initial reason for the bunker. I have no idea. Have a look at it. Everyone hated it. So if you're looking at it and you go, you know what, if the bunker was switched off today, I'd give that a try. Give it a try. If you give it no try, give the reason why it's no try. Don't have a look at it. I've got no try, but we need to have a look at it. Because I think that's gone. I'm actually doing this. I'm doing the actual no try thing, and none of you can see that. I think those days are gone. I think we really need to say there is no try. And this is why I love people like Grant. When I look at Grant, who had the grand final, I think the reason why Grant is so good in refereeing is his general refereeing. Look, I think when you look at all the referees, I think 95% of their general refereeing is great. It's the 5% where it is, I'm giving it no try because that guy ran a line and it impeded another player. And if it was live without a bunker, I would give it no try. And it's almost like I'm happy to be proven wrong, but this is my thought, that I'd actually blow a penalty, but they've put the ball down and let's have a look. Because at the end of the day, we lose nothing by having a look. It's a penalty or it's a try. Black and white rules should dictate that. I think we need. I'm just hoping. I'm hoping next year, and they've indicated the referees that this is going to be a far tighter thing. That the video ref is more about the referee taking control of the ground and the bunker supporting that. Whereas I think a little bit of it now is the referee makes a decision and the bunker has to prove or dispel it. I don't think that's the bunker's job. I think the guy on the field is the best guy or best girl to make the decision, the best person. I think it's up to the bunker just to support that. So yeah, that was something that come up as well. Other things that caught your eye, Griff, with the internationals. What are we thinking? Success, failure?
Big success.
I think so too. I think they were bloody great.
The Ashes, the actual quality of the games was a little disappointing. Great that the Ashes are back. It was pretty much one-way traffic, with the Kangaroos winning 3-0 and not really tested. The English scored 2 tries in the whole 3 games. One of them was a really great try in the last game, set up by Jess Litton.
Yes, great.
He lit up Headingley, but the other one was a dummy half running over from 2 meters out. Their attack was an issue, but I think a lot of that was Australia's defence was very solid.
Can I add to that, Griff? There was a quote in an article, and I don't know. I wish to God I'd kept it. I just saw it, and then when I went back for it, I couldn't find it. And the quote was something like this. This is like they talked about the rugby league and how it captivated everyone's imagination. Like looking at the volume of people that were there. Apparently, ratings wise, it was very good. It was
on free to air.
It was on the BBC. It drew in a lot of British viewers, either there or on TV. It captivated, I should say. And what they said is they said really, it's the typical English problem that we think we're going all right. Like getting into the Ashes. Oh, we're a good football team. We'll be right until we actually play the team. And when you look at it, and they mentioned the cricket, which is coming up, of course. They mentioned football, soccer. A lot of European qualifiers overnight. Very happy.
Very exciting.
Very happy.
Oh.
Holland are in. Oh, Netherlands are in. But they talked about all these different things, and they said this is the typical English problem, is that we think we're good at something until we actually play someone who exposes us. And what they were saying is it's a big wake up call. Let's spend the next 4 years building a team of substance and there's a World Cup between that too, by the way. Let's build a team. Let's find some people who can actually build something that makes us more competitive. Because, like they said, it's like the reason why we're the way we are is because we think we're okay until we play someone every 4 years or so, and we find out we're not. And I thought to myself, that is such a great quote. Because when you look at the English, if you look at rugby, if you look at rugby league, if you look at soccer or football, if you look at cricket, that's what happens. And it's like they now have the benchmark. Because I honestly think, and I don't know what you think, Griff, I think this is one of the best Australian sides we've taken on tour for a little while. Like, there are certain players that are just Reece Walsh especially, absolutely red hot. And I thought to myself, if you can keep up with this team, or start looking at players who could, because they're in there. I think they went for the wrong model in picking the English side. I think they picked on names. I felt they should have picked on form. and on skill, not necessarily experience. If they picked a younger team, a more vivacious team, a team that may not have the names of this side, I don't think it would have done any worse. And I think this is where England need to go to build. I think next year's World Cup would be exceptionally ambitious. But I think that this is where they need to build for the next Ashes series and then the subsequent World Cup, which is not too far away. 4 years is not that far away. So whilst I looked at their performance and went, it's a bit lackluster, in watching their football, it's there. And I think this is what Volandis is trying to get, is that, you know, this British side played Australia, right? And regardless of the scores, I felt by game 3 they were a far better team than game 1. Start getting some players in there. Start looking at getting some NRL experience and start working yourself so that you can create a competition that's got these players. I have no doubt that there's players there that would have made this a closer competition. I just think they need to listen to this journalist and maybe start throwing a bit of caution to the wind, because I absolutely love the concept. I love the idea. I thought can I just take, look, it's very rare I take my hat off to anything British. Can I take my hat off to the English crowd, fans, and organisations around it? Because I felt watching it as a viewer, you were there as a spectator at the ground. It just looks, it looked good, and they obviously, you know, it's not their number one game, so they fall short in a few things, you know, line markings and whatnot. It's when a world-class football match is going to take place a couple of days after the rugby league match, maybe they don't want to put the lines on there. I don't know. But I just felt that, you know what, this is the beginnings of something. This is like the first Vegas round, you know, where people went, well, will it work, won't it work? I felt it worked. So, yeah, take my hat off to them. I thought it was a good thing.
Yeah, it was great to have it back. I was. I'm glad I went over there, even though it wasn't the greatest game at Wembley. When the atmosphere, it was a little bit lacking on what I expected. Certainly, watching the other games, there was a lot more atmosphere at both Everton and also in Leeds at Headingley. But it was still over 60,000. It was a record crowd for any Ashes game.
That's insane. Like 60,000. Like, yeah. That's massive. Like, that's like what we're talking. Stadium Accor. Accor is the only ground that could possibly do that.
Yeah.
In Australia, like, so, that's huge.
I mean, Wembley apparently holds about 90,000. There's a lot of empty seats, but still, they set a new record for an attendance at an Australia England game, or Australia Great Britain as they used to play under that name. But I'd do it again.
Look, I was jealous. Yeah. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Look, they haven't got the players.
No. And
apart from Herbie Farnworth,
no,
he's really the only guy. If you were picking a combined side, it probably makes the combined side. Their forwards were solid, and they certainly took it to the Australians, but it's not the class there to be able to score the tries. Now, I believe they actually beat Samoa and Tonga in 3-match series in the previous 2 years.
Yep.
So they must have done something right, because both Samoa and Tonga, at the moment, well, Tonga didn't go so well in the Pac Champs, but on paper, you would think both Samoa and Tonga would beat that England team. They were playing at home, and they did play a 3-game series, and they did win them.
I don't think they picked. I think they picked more on names than.
Yeah, I don't know the Super League well enough.
I don't think they picked on form. That was my biggest problem, and I thought.
Well, John Bateman, obviously,
they didn't pick on form.
They did drop him for the last game, but
they picked names, not form, and I think that was at their detriment.
The other guy that was at the Raiders, now they had Smithies. Trying to think of his name, the back rower. He didn't make the team. Didn't make the squad.
He should have. I don't think they picked on his name, but I don't think they picked on.
He had a good season with Canberra.
Yeah, I don't think they picked on form, and one thing I did think of is that I know you got to have a group of 25 and under the cap. I would love to see that you nominate, because I don't think of Samoa and Tonga as tier 2 teams anymore. I think they're tier 1 teams. And New Zealand, I think New Zealand have a side in New Zealand that I think that makes a big difference.
Matty Nicholson, sorry, he was the player I was thinking. Yes. I think he made the team.
One idea I did have was that in your pre-season training, you can nominate a Samoan, Tongan, and English player to actually train on with you and trial with you during that period before the start of the NRL season. Most Samoan Tongans would be aligned with an NRL club, but not the Super League. I think that if you could find 13 or ultimately more than that, 17 English players who could do an off-season with an NRL club, I think that would actually bolster England. I think it would also bolster Samoa and Tonga. I think there's a lot of merit in it. They don't play for you. They can play the pre-season. They're not your NRL players. They're not going to be there round one. But what they're there to do is experience what it's like to be in an NRL system. I think that's important. And I think that if you could add another 3 players, to throw out there, and if they were playing for South Sydney, they could go to the Charity Shield. I look at the Lewis Dodd experiment, which is an absolute failure. If that guy just came over to experience pre-season with South Sydney, well, all of a sudden you're going, well, that's worthwhile. I think that if you're a player who could do that, all of a sudden you're seeing the very best of training, of coaching, and what it is to be NRL level. And I think that's important. I'd like to see the NRL be a little bit innovative here and go, a healthy competition is having healthy global competition. Like we're getting PNG in here. We're trying to maybe expect, we want 20 teams. Volandis says 20 teams, 19 match competition. That's what we're looking at, 2030. And that's not too far away. We really need to go globally to see where this is at. And if globally means that you pick someone from America, so be it. Just to come and train with you in the off season and learn what the rugby league is about. And I think this is what we've got to start doing. This is what the NFL do. This is what NFL. This is what the NBA. The massive any European rugby. I go for Ajax. I look at globally who's on the world stage that once wore an Ajax jersey, and I go, that's what it's about. That's the model that Ajax have. It's shit because we don't win at times, but you know what? If we could grab a pool of global players and have them understand what the training regimes are like, what it looks like in a trial match, what the level you have to play at, you don't know it until you've experienced it. And I think this might be something that if the NRL want to be slightly innovative, maybe this is where it's at, where they go, you can have 4 overseas players that are part of, you've got to have 4 overseas players. They're a part of your off-season squad. They train with you. They can play trial games. They're not part of your NRL squad, but they get to experience it. Because you know what? What if one of them is that good? And you go, do you want a contract? All of a sudden, that highlights someone. And a guy that brings me to tears when I talk about him is Sam Burgess. And I remember when South Sydney took a punt on him. Just come play, play in an NRL system, see how you go, see what it's like. And for a long period of time, he was the best forward in the world. And there's only one Sam Burgess, I get that. But if he was in Super League his whole career, he wouldn't have been the best forward in the world. It was coming to the NRL that did that. Griffo, RL 360.
Yeah.
Bit of look, since our podcast, Ryan Pappenhausen taking a year off. Zach Lomax released from his contract. Payne Haas, a lot of chatter. They're just 3 where there's a lot of smoke. Where there's smoke, there's fire. Volandis has said a bit. What do you think's happening here?
Well, it does literally change by the day.
I agree.
It looked as though all roads were leading to R360 for Lomax and Pappenhausen, and there's also a lot of talk about Payne Haas. I've seen an article from today where the manager of manager Shafovsky, he was the manager of Lomax and Pappenhausen, has said he's not going to deal with R360 anymore. And he is advising players to do the same. So I don't know what's caused that turnaround, because he was really the guy that was front and center in getting players to that competition.
Well, there was initial questions of conflict of interest that was he paid by them, because it just seemed like he was keen on getting players to there. Now he said there's no conflict of interest, that everything's fine. But yeah, that's a hell of a...
won't negotiate with the R360 Rebel Rugby Union competition officials from now on.
I don't see how this competition is going to get up. That's just my... Like, when I've done all my checks and balances, they're heavily relying on the NRL to produce some pretty keen, of some pretty good quality players to make this competition zing, and they haven't got them. So what's going on, do you think? Like Zach Lomax, instant release. What?
He's Nomax, really. Like
Pappenhausen taking a year off.
Yeah, well, obviously they were heading that way.
Yeah.
But there's been, obviously, from their manager, is now very much in reverse, and saying he's not going to. And he said he did advise his clients to pursue those opportunities, but he has changed his way, and he's now advising that his clients do not negotiate with R360, and said if they wish to, they should get a legal advisor to assist them. But he won't. He's not going with that. Now, he has been dealing with that organisation, and if he's now
100%
saying
directly,
Yeah,
hotmail is he. Well, people thought he was working for them, and he had to say no. This is not conflict of interest. So,
well, he was going to make a lot of money out of him.
well, yeah,
with because the managers were getting 10% of the
that's right.
price of the contract, not 10% of the contract. The whole contract was going to the players, unlike the current system in the NRL where
And I know
the managers get about 7%. So
I
if
know
someone
there was
signs
a
for $1 million, the
tax-free
manager
option.
takes 7%. But anyway, look, that says to me, and I don't have any knowledge other than what I read and hear. If manager Shafovsky, who's the one who's been getting his players to talk to R360, is now saying that they should not do that, then I think the threat to rugby league players, NRL players, is diminished. I certainly did see it as a threat when you're losing quality players, but it does leave Lomax in particular in a bit of a pickle because he's walked out on what was a 4-year deal. He played 1 year, asked for a release. A year after he asked for a release from the Dragons. That's not a good look.
Well, that's tainted goods, isn't it, really?
Oh, well, who's going to want to sign him? Because he hasn't signed, obviously that 10-year ban doesn't come into effect. However, very smartly, the Parramatta Eels put in place some parameters about his release.
I think he'll be at Parramatta next year.
I don't think he will.
No?
I don't think he will. Why would or no, if he is, they're gonna renegotiate. He's on
100%. They're gonna renegotiate.
700,000.
He's fucked. Oh, sorry. Thank God I didn't finish that thing. He's buggered because I got a gut feeling, and this is where I think a lot of it comes from. So I've done a bit of digging around here.
And you're a good digger.
So what the escape plan for a lot of rugby league players was, if this fails, go to Super League. So Volandis has actually said, if we have anything to do with the Super League, that counts too. I heard on the grapevine that the Players Association said that's not fair. And it's like, no. Mate, if we own one, we owned a lot. And you know, like knowing Peter Volandis, he'd be like, mate, anything, if I have to do with anything, you're not playing with anything I have to do with, mate. You're not even a jockey. If you've got a small frame and can jump on a horse, I'm not letting you do that. I got a gut feeling that they honestly thought they had certain escape plans, and one of those included English Rugby League, who could be relatively cashed up, depending on what happens in the not-too-distant future. If that's not an option, and that's a 10-year ban too, you're buggered. If this thing does not get off the ground, you're not playing sport for 10 years. You might as well go get your bloody real estate ticket or your accountancy, your bachelor and your CPA. I got a gut feeling that a lot of these players have said, I want a release from my contract. Okay, you got it. They haven't signed anything because the unknown is a big problem for them. I've said it before and I'll say it again. I can't see the volume of cash unless there's some Saudi prince.
There's no Saudi money.
That's right.
It's some
unless there's some Saudi prince that gets behind this. I can't see how this is feasible. This competition to me, and this is a punter who watches rugby league and is on our podcast. I can't see how it's feasible because basically you're paying people $3 million a year, but yet you've got no audience. Rugby's a dying sport. It's dying in the arse globally.
Well,
It's
it's on the way down here, but I
if you look
about it, but
the only place where it's actually steady is New Zealand. In America's struggling to cope with it. You've got South Africa, who basically, if their cricket team has a good year, then it's over for them. The only place in the world where it's actually solid is New Zealand, and in England, because they've got the volume of people. I just don't see how this thing's going to get off the ground. Now, why would you risk 10 years of your career? Because the other thing is the fine print in their contracts, which is, we can give you $3,000 a year, but that's only the years that it runs. So what they've said is that the first year is a given. If it doesn't get off the ground and you sign with us, we'll give you $3 million. Done. Man, that's a long time in the wilderness. And you know what? I would not want to fight Peter V'landys on anything. If Peter V'landys says you're out for 10 years, there's not going to be a lot that gets you back. And you know what? He's openly said he's got legal advice. He's gone to lawyers. He's gotten advice from people who've worked in court, judges, and not just judges. I'm sure they're QCs and whatnot. And what he says can stick. I just look at these people that have left their club. You become tainted goods. You know what? I don't see this thing getting off the ground, personally. I really don't. This doesn't have the backing or charisma of an IPL. The IPL was brilliant. Like that was phenomenal, the way that was executed. This is nowhere near. This is in nowhere near shape or form that refined. If they've got no out, rugby league wise, they can't go to England, they can't come back to Australia, which means you're going to languish in a rugby competition. If rugby would have you, by the way, because we don't know what rugby competitions are going to say no. This isn't like golf. This just doesn't. It doesn't seem right. Like, I said to some people the other day, Super League had better legs than this, and look what happened to that. Because globally, I don't think many people want it. It's not a need globally. If this had a massive American market, like, look at the IPL. Everyone in India wanted it, and it was massive. You got people in America who have already said they may not even broadcast it. I think they're in trouble, and I think people who have taken a year off, they should probably go back to their, Shifovsky is one guy. I think they should go back to their manager and maybe renegotiate what the rest of their career looks like, because it could end up in the private sector and not in rugby league.
Yeah, look, I don't think, because they're not signed to this point in time, I don't think they're going to be the subject of a 10-year ban. But
no.
Lomax can't play in the NRL for anyone other than Parramatta.
That's right.
I believe under that agreement, which he's got 3 more years on that, what was the agreement. So I'm not sure how old Lomax is. I would imagine he's probably in his, at the very earliest, mid-20s, but I think he might be late 20s.
I think he's in his mid to late.
Yeah. So he's the one really with probably a bigger issue. Pappenhausen, he was just released. I don't think there was any
26. Zach Lomax is 26.
So he's in the prime of his career. Had played a couple of good years. It was pretty rocks or diamonds before that.
Ryan Pappenhausen, would you believe it? How old do you think Ryan Pappenhausen is?
27, 28?
Oh, you are too good, Griffo. 27.
Okay. Pappenhausen's different in that he's had a lot of serious injuries.
Yeah.
Lomax doesn't mean he's injury-free, but he hasn't had the serious, and particularly with Pappenhausen, a lot of head injuries, as well as that dreadful injury.
Busted knee.
So, physically, Lomax is in better shape. But Pappenhausen, to the best of my knowledge, was not signed up for another 3 years. So, he could be a Perth Bear or a PNG Chief. Lomax will not be able to sign with the Bears or the Chiefs when they first come in, because that will still be he's still got his 3 years to see out before he can play against Parramatta. So he's the one with a bit
That's very true.
Yeah. But anyway, enough of that. I think we've covered that. I've heard a lot about it on various sports programs and podcasts, and I think that's where it's at the moment. It doesn't seem to be, after what I've read today, the threat that it was previously.
Yeah. Griffo, I suppose we've covered a lot. Is there anything you want to bring up in?
Oh, a few things.
Yep.
The debacle that was the way in which Eli Katoa.
Oh, poor. Yeah, Eli Katoa. That was horrible.
He's already been ruled out for 2026.
Yes, he's out for the year. Yep.
Now, that is secondary, of course, to his health.
Yep.
But I've got to applaud the Melbourne Storm, who have a very, very good track record in relation to head injuries, including Ryan Pappenhausen. They've got on the front foot. They've said he won't be in preseason training and he won't be playing in 2026. Now, his health is more important than any game of rugby league. Rugby league is his livelihood, and I'm not quite sure how long he was contracted for, but obviously he will be paid for the duration of his contract if he is not able to play again. And I'm not saying that's the case. I'm just saying if. So his money is guaranteed, certainly for next year. I'm not quite sure when he was signed up till. But if he weren't able to play again, and he's still quite a young man, he is economically going to lose a lot of money. Now, no fault of his own, no fault of his club, but the whole administration / medical staff / coaching staff, and I'm going to throw in his teammates, had the opportunity to step in and say, this guy's not right. He should have been ruled out immediately for the head knock he took with a clash with, I think it was young Hopewadi.
Mm-hmm.
He should not have taken the field.
No.
He goes onto the field. He gets knocked out again.
That was the worst.
And then he comes back again. Like, this is unbelievable how that happened. And if ever there could be illegal, and I don't like the whole legal stuff. I hate it, actually. But if ever a guy had claims for compensation, it's him. It's him. I hope he recovers. Firstly, I hope his health is the significant thing. The guy had to have brain surgery. So the most important thing is his health. I would be very happy for him to be able to come back and play rugby league. But that, at the moment, is on the back burner. But the reality is, that's how he earns his living. And he's a very young man. So I used the word debacle, and it was a debacle, and it should not have happened. Yeah. I just wish the guy well.
Yeah, I thought it was a schmozzle. I really did. I watching it unfold, I just went, what the hell's going on here? Some significant people made the wrong decision. And, I think this is where we need a unified body looking after the NRL, looking after rugby league globally. I think Volandis should head that because he's done such a good job at this one, and if that had happened, I doubt Qatar would have had this problem. It's not great. And yeah,
in NRL games, they have the doctor watching on the screen, and he has the authority to rule players out. Now, I've got to assume that wasn't in place for the Pacific Championships.
Well, yeah,
but I don't know. I don't know that for sure.
I don't know either. But
apparently, well, it was in the warm up.
There's definitely
they don't look at that. So,
so in international competition, if this was an NRL game and he'd had a head knock in the warm up, and the team doctor had noted it, the independent doctor would have immediately looked at it, done the assessment. The problem we have here is, and this got brought up a few years ago between international rules versus what happens in the NRL. And I think it was actually Graham Hughes who said, if the NRL is the benchmark, why do we take a step backwards when things are outside the NRL's jurisdiction? If that's the standard, let's just make it the standard. And I think that's where we've got to be at. It's a balls up that almost cost a young man his life. And
could have.
Come on. This is why we have this stuff, people. If we need a global standard on this for the NRL, let's have it. What other issues?
I think some player movements, Shane.
Yeah, 100%. Please bring them up.
November 1 has come and gone. There have been some significant movements, not so much at the top end, but the one that stood out to me, I think we talked about Pezzett previously in the last podcast, so that was a big one.
Massive.
He's going to Para for a year.
Good. Well, now
going to the Broncos.
Now no Lomax. You're sort of going, well, do they have someone out wide that can utilise his skill? It's silly.
I'm sure they can find someone.
Hopefully. It is Para though.
But I've got to applaud them on what they've been doing. And I've been a big critic of the administration of that club.
Mm-hmm.
But I support them 100% on... Yeah. Lomax didn't want to be there, so they tried to negotiate the best deal for them. And if he did sign with anyone else, including
Yeah.
R360. They negotiated that organisation would have to pay a transfer fee. Now, I don't know how much it would have been,
Smart.
but they were going to get some money out of it.
That would have been.
And
Yep.
what it's done is freed up their salary cap. They may not be looking for a winger. Unfortunately,
Keon Colomatungi's the guy.
That is the man.
That's gonna hurt. That's gonna hurt.
It's Rabbitohs if he goes there, but that is the hot tip that he's their target. They can't get him until 27.
I'm hoping by then.
There's also talk about Big Nelson possibly being a target for next year. I think long term, Keon is obviously a better proposition.
Yeah.
But they're starting to put a bit of a side together.
About the draw too. Yeah.
Oh yeah, well anyway. But what the movement of Pezzett, the impending movement in 27 up to the Broncos, and I think that's a massive signing by the Broncos, because Reynolds will be gone, Hunt will also likely be gone, and Pezzett comes in to play 7 inside Ezra Mam. Now, combine that with Walsh at fullback, you've got a pretty potent rugby league team there in the back line. But one of the repercussions of, and usually we see this when one player moves, it triggers off other movements, was the highly talented youngster at the Broncos that plays halfback, Kobe Black. He has signed with the Canberra Raiders for 2027. So he's still at the Broncos next year, but he's going down to the Raiders where Pezzett goes up to the Broncos.
Mm-hmm.
Now, that is a big signing for the Raiders because this guy is very, very highly respected as a future premier number 7. He represented the Queensland side this year. They won this year's under-19s. I think he might have played the year before as well. So it's a bit of a loss there for the Broncos, but it's a massive gain for the Raiders. I really thought that he would have been the sort of guy that the Perth Bears could have targeted. Now, they might not have known of his movements or potential movements, but they've not signed a player yet. A guy on the up, wearing number 7, as the Dolphins did with Izzy Katoa. They signed him. He'd not played first grade. Everyone knew he was a gun. And he's gone on and proven that at the Dolphins. I thought he might have been a guy that Perth could have got as a signature, but he's going to be a Raider. Now, the interesting thing there is that the Colonel, who played with the Raiders this year, only played 2 games in NRL, came from Para, where he'd played 2 NRL games as well. The Colonel has basically been guaranteed the number 7 jersey for next year, with the other Ethan playing at 6, Ethan Strange. So it's a good position to be in if you're the Raiders, where you've got, Sanders had been talked about as a really good 7 for a few years, represented the Blues in the under-19s successfully. He's locked in for next year, basically as their half. If it doesn't work, they can bring in Black the following year. If it works, Black's on the outer. Because if Sanders and Strange establish themselves, as I expect they will, they're not quite sure where that leaves Kobe Black, other than playing in the New South Wales Cup, which is what he doesn't want to do. I still think Ethan Strange could play in the centres if Black's that good and they can try and work out. But it's good to have those options. The Raiders, who won the minor premiership, I thought they'd be a force in 2026. before this season started, because of not only have they signed great outside backs and halves, young guys, but they also signed a lot of players that played in the under-19s in the forwards. So the Canberra Raiders are set for a very, very good period for their club over the next 5 years with their signings of those, the best junior talent, essentially. They've got a lot of it. Trying to think of some of the other signings, but they were the ones that I guess are most prominent that have happened since we had our last podcast. Penrith signed a number of guys from the Warriors New South Wales Cup team who won that competition.
Yep.
Won the national competition. I think Penrith signed about 4 of them, including Beer Man, who has had a few clubs, Tom Arley, the Beer Man. But he's going to be a Panther next year. Kalani Going is coming to the Panthers. He's a Carpool favourite from a few years ago. So he's coming, even though it said, well, he's going from the Warriors and he's coming to the Panthers. I've not really seen him play. I believe he's a hooker. And there are significant raps on him.
From what I've seen, very good dummy half runner with not a bad kicking game.
Well, that's a good addition.
Good service.
Jack Conker's on the way there, but we knew that. The nephew of Fui Moi Moi, whose name I'm not familiar with, has signed also with the Panthers. He's not coming up on the screen as I look at signings, but I know that was the case. I think they may have signed another prop. His name might be Crosby. Again, part of that Warriors team. Your club, Shano, we talked about Fafita last time.
Yeah.
They had a few other signings that
There's
were
some
already
junior
there.
signings. It's good. Like a lot of their junior signings, I think, are solid. I'm not upset with what they've done. My biggest problem is at the moment South Sydney are struggling with succession planning.
Yep.
I know that's something that Wayne Bennett spoke to the powers that be about. I think it's fallen on deaf ears again. I think the South Board really need to have a very good hard look at themselves, because I think succession planning is going to be a very key problem moving forward. I know they've set things up and they've said, they've got plans, but really, they were willing to let Jai Gray go at one point in time, and thankfully that didn't happen. 1679. Jai Gray as one, I'm happy to keep. I think that's fine. You've got the 7 locked in, 6 and 9. Yeah, Cody Walker's had a fair stint, and I'm not too sure whether we're sold on Mademoiselle. So yeah, I think succession planning is a big problem. And to be fair to South Sydney, I'm not going to have a crack at them, because I think at the moment there's probably 10 clubs where succession planning is a problem. They don't know what they're doing in regard to the next 5 years. That's, Mark Hughes was at South Sydney and did it phenomenally. Isaac Luke was one of the products from that. I got a gut feeling that this is driven by the CEO And I love Mark Ellison, don't get me wrong, but I really think that maybe he needs to have a good look at his role in the club. Look, this isn't the South Sydney podcast, so I'm not going to just talk about South Sydney, but I do think South Sydney. I know Wayne Bennett has highlighted some problems, and sought to alleviate them, but look, he's given his indication as to where different players will play next year, and that's been somewhat good. But yeah, I when you got people like Keon Kolomatangi saying they want to leave to pursue a premiership, and that club might be Parramatta, geez, you're in trouble. So anyway, I think that the young people South Sydney have signed, I'm fairly happy with.
I don't know. They're not listed in the list I'm looking, but I have seen.
There's a lot
of a number of young players that they have signed.
That's right. And I suppose the big thing is on the horizon. Adam Reynolds has been in negotiation with South Sydney as to maybe that's where he finishes. If this means a coaching reunion with Sam Burgess, I think this is what every South Sydney fan is hoping for. I think South Sydney have walked away from their roots. That, when South Sydney won the premiership, it was on the back of believing in juniors and people who they got in. Going back to the core of the club, I genuinely think that maybe if they can get that guy back, the essence of what they want to build might occur, because this is Bennett's second year. His third year is next year. I don't know if he's got another year in him after that. So, yeah, like I said, this isn't the South Sydney show, but I think South Sydney fans this year matters in a draw that has not been kind whatsoever. It's going to be exceptionally tough. But you know what? At the end of the day, 2 points are worth 2 points. You just go there and win them and see what you can do.
Well, on paper, if they've got a strong side, they've got a strong squad on paper. But it's being able to transfer what's on paper under competition points.
Yeah, and that's a problem.
And one of the problems they've had is getting their best players on the field. Now, they've addressed that problem by, as far as I'm aware, virtually completely getting rid of their strength and conditioning staff and bringing in a whole new team there. So you've got to say, well, they've recognised that whatever those guys
they're having a crack. I just there's a small part of me that says that the rot's a bit higher than that, but that's okay. We'll work on that. Griffo, any closing thoughts?
Look, it's just good to be back on. We're in the off season. The off season's not long, or not been long, but I'm already missing the footy. I know that they're talking, or it's been mooted that the future competition is going to be reduced in size or in the number of games played. And while I understand that, and I'm a little bit supportive, because we sort of touched on the draw there, that some teams have got a harder draw than others. I haven't had a deep dive into it. I kept reading that Penrith have got a tough draw, but it is what it is. You've got to make the 8, and then it's a new comp.
I think the biggest thing with the draw, and I've always, I remember last year talking about Penrith's draw, and there are teams like, when you've got 7 home games at your designated ground, because you're playing a Queensland team on Magic Round, I just go. I said it last year. I've said it every year. Like, we've got to be better than this. Like in the end of the day, then when you've got 7 opportunities to go watch your team at the ground they play at, if 3 of them are Thursday, a couple of early Fridays, and early Saturdays, well, you're not getting there. Like, I understand the TV deal, but Jesus, I know we've got to take rugby league everywhere, and I get that. And I was in defence of Penrith last year. I really think we need to start saying some of our teams do more than others in this competition, and maybe everyone should pull their weight. If there's a team like Penrith, for argument's sake, who can earn money or who's a money spinner, then they should get paid for that. If we're putting Penrith here or wherever, if we're taking Penrith to Bathurst, because we're going to sell out Bathurst and still get how many million viewers, well then fucking give them the money for it. Because you know what? That makes them, that makes our club, that, you know, that's why they're good. And I'm starting to really think that some of the best teams, I won't say the best because that's unfair, because I think this year, and I'm not saying this because I'm a fan of the club, but when you look at what South Sydney have to do next year, they've got the worst draw, bar none. It's horrible.
Shane, I've not looked at it, but I'm going to say that
it's just
it's not that much different to what they face every year.
It's very true, but it's
they
worse.
Are seen as
actually worse.
A team,
and it's just
the
like
NRL wants in big games because they have that big supporter base.
You know, like, I get it. We can go to Cairns and
so they play 2 games against the good sides.
And you know what I mean.
Brisbane are the same.
But it's not even that, Griffo. It's that there's 7 games that you designated home. Like as a fan, that's all I've got.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So it's like, I get that people in Cairns want to watch South Sydney. I really get it. But you know what? It's at the detriment of what that club has to do.
Well, it has been.
It's starting to get to the point where, as a fan,
they've played a lot of games in other cities.
You know, like,
I'm assuming that they make some money out of that.
They do, to be fair.
But it has been to the detriment.
But you know, like, I think
their performance.
You know, like, they're one of the highest yielding, like profit wise, they're one of the highest clubs in the NRL, and no doubt this helps. But you know what? 2014's it. If I was a Penrith fan and I look at what Penrith have had to do, well, I've had a cracking era of watching them win grand finals. If I was a Canberra fan, not that they've won a grand final, but they've been pretty successful. If I was a Roosters fan, well, they've won more than one. I just think that, you know, anyway, this isn't the South Sydney show, so we'll create a South Sydney podcast.
No, but the bottom line is around that.
But other clubs get it too, and I just think that.
But generally speaking, best clubs
what's the purpose?
Play the other best clubs twice.
Yeah.
And the least successful clubs play the other least successful clubs twice.
In saying that,
and it's all to do with ratings.
You know what I don't get? And correct me if I'm wrong. Is it Canberra's lost out on the Magic Round?
They did. They're not represented there.
What the like? Really?
Well, it is strange that the minor premiers
Canberra Raiders, right? You can't come up with a rivalry. Canberra Tigers. I don't know. Canberra Tigers, 3 p.m. on a Sunday I just don't. Oh yeah, I don't know. This is what bewilders me. I think
it bewilders a lot of people that the minor premiers are not in that. It is put up there as the biggest round of the premiership before the finals. Now, I would be very happy if Penrith didn't play in Magic Round.
Well, this year I'd be cheering. Next year I'd be cheering because
Brisbane.
We're giving up a
It takes place at Brisbane, and I live in Sydney.
I do not care, but do not. And this is where the NRL just needs to be really honest with itself. If a Queensland club, it's a Queensland club home game. Be on it. I said it last year. I said it the year before. Yeah, I've said it since day one. I've a broken record with it. It's just rubbish. Because what you're doing is you're actually taking money away from yourselves. You don't understand it. And this is where these guys, they are so. I'm trying to find what was it where I don't swear. They just don't get it. If you actually, because what they're actually saying to us by this is we care more about television than ground ratings. Then fine. Don't play games at Accor, which is the most rubbish ground to watch rugby league at. Play games at grounds where it's nice to look at. CommBank. Play every Sydney rugby league game at CommBank. And if that's all you care about is television ratings, well then everyone will go to CommBank. Fine. I don't care. I'll watch my team play regardless. But don't roll dog poo and cinnamon and call it a donut. Don't tell me in one instance that, we care about the fans at the grounds, but then all of a sudden, if you play Brisbane and Dolphins or at Magic Round, that's your home game. No, it's not.
Can't be. And I know last year Penrith played the Broncos in Magic Round, and it was a Penrith home game.
It was a Penrith home game. I remember it well because we spoke about how crap it is.
Yeah, but Penrith knew that, and they were happy because they, I believe, received a payment for that to take place. So that was their choice. So I can't be overly critical, but what I will say is that shouldn't be the case.
I was going to say, I know with South Sydney, when we do things, did Penrith give you a reduction in your season membership? Because I know South Sydney...
You know.
Look, we talk about season...
How many games?
I know.
I think it's 8 games they play.
I know. But the thing is this. The NRL, I'll always get a season membership, don't get me wrong. But when the NRL start dictating when and how I'm going to watch my team, that's the problem. I'll do everything to support my team. If they're going to get more money playing in Cairns, go to Cairns. I get it. But when the NRL starts saying, in actual fact, it's more lucrative for us to do it this way because of a television deal, then I want my team to start getting some significant kickbacks.
I'm sure they do, Shane.
Hopefully. Because when I went through the last budget statement as a member, I didn't see it.
Right. Well, the bottom line is that everyone believes that if a game is played at Suncorp Stadium, whether or not Brisbane run out in their home jersey or their away jersey, they're playing at their home ground.
Come on.
We've got to be realistic.
It's a stupidity.
And it does give them an advantage that is...
This will test the NRL.
Unfair advantage when they're playing well over half of their games on their home ground.
And they've got some
in front of their home. The majority of fans
Saturday night, Saturday, they've got some insane amount of games this year on a Saturday.
Yeah, they'll get lost. Those fans, they won't know where to go.
They'll Friday night 11. They know
they'll be turning up 24 hours.
Well, you know what? What if okay, and this is what when the NRL came out with a statement. They said, look, it's not about whether Brisbane are the home and away fans. This is a round for rugby league. Okay. Then make Brisbane the bye.
Yeah.
Give that a crack. They would never do that.
You're still gonna fill the ground. Like you're gonna sell the tickets.
You know what I mean?
Because
Like I'd go. I'd love to go. I'm
52.
actually genuinely looking at how I can get to Magic Round next year.
Yeah.
Because as a home fan,
the interesting thing is that the Broncos are playing the Warriors, and if it was just the Broncos and the Warriors, they almost fill Suncorp anyway.
That's right.
You know, I think that's a mistake putting that game on in
dumb
Magic Round because of the fact that, as I
Broncos
said,
Melbourne.
But well, even that,
yeah,
they just about sell out. But there's a huge supporter base for the Warriors, both in Sydney and in Brisbane. But I mean, it is what it is. Like,
yeah,
we can pick
talk about this
issues, and there are issues. They're genuine issues. But the bottom line is, I can't wait till
I want the rugby league
gets underway again.
Yet.
And I don't mean the trials.
No.
Get rid of those.
No.
Get rid of those. Leave the competition. Doesn't have to necessarily be you play 24 games. That, and as a fan, I want that. But being realistic, maybe they could cut it back to 22. Play each other once, and then into some sort of pools that maybe are designed around positions the previous year. So there's.
I agree. Nah. You know what? They're talking about conference system. Can I say, if the NRL want to make serious money, they would have a seeded pool system where a night, like in November, you figure out what pool you're in and the draw's made upon. That would, the ratings...
Well, that's after everyone's played each other once.
You know what? I genuinely think, this whole idea of having a conference system where it's pre-designed, don't do it. We don't care. Like
we're not America. They've got a much bigger population.
And
they've got a lot more teams than what we've got.
The Americans hate it. Majority of Americans hate, like, Miami Dolphins fan. I'm fucking always watching New England or the Bills. You know what? How about this? At the start of the year, we have the top seeded teams and then a lotto draw like European Cup or the World Cup. The ratings of that would be in the millions. I'd be glued to it, because you know what? Then I find out who South Sydney have to be, and Penrith or whoever have to be against. And if I'm a seeded team from last year, well, I want to be on my game. Could you imagine? The Warriors. Warriors wouldn't be seeded in the. Could you imagine them being in the second round? Second round pick the Warriors. If you got them, you'd be like, "Jeez, they were awesome last year." As the top seed team, what do? Anyway, Griffo, as always, an absolute pleasure.
Thanks, listeners. It's good to be back. We're gonna look at some retro years.
Yeah, retrospectives. We're going to do some retrospectives.
All right. We'll work out which years and put those out over the summer. I don't like the off season. I never have.
No.
But it's necessary. The players need a rest.
And one of the retrospectives I was thinking of is actually close grand finals that went down to the wire. I think that'd be a good one. And in the 80s and 90s, there were plenty.
All right. Well, thank you, listeners. Thank you,
listeners.
Shana.
Thank you, Griffo. As always, absolute pleasure. thank you for being a part of this, everyone. Again, rugby league still going. We just need to follow your team, watch the player movements, and there's a lot of stuff happening. Thank you, everyone. Bye for now. Thanks for being a part of it. Thank you, Griffo. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.